Ruth, Heath, Ramey. I was born in Pittsburgh in 1913, and I joined the Methodist Church in 1920 at the ripe age of 7. They were having a tent revival, and the tent was pitched where the jail and the courthouse are now.
Uh-huh.
And an evangelist named Cowboy Krim was holding it. And I joined the church. My mother was the most shocked person there. So when I came home, she says, "Honey, why did you decide to join the church?" I said, "Well, I knew next year I'd be in Miss Bell Taylor's Sunday school class and she'd make me. So I thought I'd just go ahead and get it over with." So that was a fine reason. But you know what? I think the end justified the means, because I've never had a regret in the world about it.
Did you have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, I had 2 brothers and 2 sisters, but I did not grow up with them. I was a late baby. My mother had 4 teenagers when I was born.
Oh.
But of course they all grew up in that church too.
Who was the first in your family to be a member of that church?
Who was the first in my family what?
Who was the first in your family to be a member of that church? Was it your parents' generation or your grandparents?
Oh, no, you see, my grandmother was a Pitts, and they settled the town.
Okay.
And I'm sure I'm sure they must have been charter members of that church. I believe I've been told that it was organized in 1857.
That's right. That's what the records show. What other memories do you have of growing up in the church there?
Oh my, I have many. Well, I remember going to Sunday school when I was in, I guess they'd call it the nursery now. I don't know what you'd call it, but before I was about 3 or 4. And the Sunday school classroom was, of all things, upstairs on the east side at the rear of the church.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not sure who my teacher was. The earliest teacher I can remember was Mrs. Moe Smith. She was a fine Christian woman. And then the second one I can remember was Mrs. Mabian, who was Paul Raymond's grandmother.
Uh-huh.
And there again, she was a fine Christian. And the superintendent of that department was Mrs. Louis B. Hess. Now that was George Hess's grandmother.
Uh-huh.
And then when you were 9, then you graduated and moved downstairs to a place. And of course, Mrs. Taylor had the 9-year-olds. And I won't say she made you join the church, but nobody got through her class without joining the Methodist Church.
Does she still have any relatives living in the
No.
Pittsburgh area? Do you know?
She was from Pennsylvania. And she and her husband moved to Pittsburgh well before I was born. But she was a dedicated Methodist. If anybody, I never did know her husband. She was a dedicated Methodist, if anybody ever was. She had a little store downtown. She sold books and toys and pencils and paper and things like that.
Who were your friends that you played with at church or enjoyed being with?
Well, I was trying to think. Of course, Dave was always there. Carlton Ellis, and as a little child, they are only boys. There were boys there, but I can't remember who they were. And the girls, I don't believe any of them live there now or still living. Though I can remember, of course, Dorothy Boyd and Mrs. Smith's granddaughter, Louise R., who married a McGahee. And the Newsom girls, and I'm not sure I remember their names. Oh, Maybelle and Aline King. Now they were Billy Paul Hanson's cousins.
Okay.
And just offhand, Blanche Crumpler and Louis B. Hess. And see, I don't know whether any of them are still living. Blanche and Louis B. I don't know.
Were those the same children you went to school with?
Yeah. Now my mother taught, at that time, she taught a class of teenage girls downstairs.
What was your father's role in the church?
Well, he taught the men's Bible class, and he was on the building committee. His name is on that window in the front. He was on the building committee when it was built.
What was his name?
William, W.R. Heath, I believe is the way he would be on that window. He was a lawyer. But I don't remember him because he died when I was just 2 years old.
Oh, okay. Do you remember any of the pastors of the church?
You know what?
Do you remember any of the pastors of the church?
Yeah, when I joined the church, of course, like I said, I joined at that revival meeting, tent meeting. But the minister was Dr. Solomon, and he's the one who took me into the church.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who came after him, I don't know, because that was such, but I remember Brother Campbell and Brother Cross and both of the Williams, J. Coy Williams and Clint Williams. Of course, Clint Williams performed our marriage ceremony. Milton Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
And Milton Jordan lived in Pittsburgh as a young man. His uncle was what we call the presiding elder, and the presiding elder lived in Pittsburgh at that time, and that was Brother Vance. Now I'm going way back when I tell you that. And the presiding elder's home was on the corner of College and North Avenue.
Uh-huh. I think Dave's pointed it out to me before.
He did. Well, there was no restroom in the church. There was no kitchen. They put a kitchen and a restroom in the church. I'm going to guess in the 30s. I'm not sure. Now, about the sanctuary, I was trying to think who I remembered playing the organ. There was Miss May Ellington played the organ. And Miss Parvin Swim played it sometimes. And Dave Abernathy's mother, Callie Abernathy, played it a long time. And then there was Ada Holman, and I guess she played the organ maybe 40 years.
Did they do anything special for children when you were growing up? Vacation Bible school or anything like that?
They didn't have Vacation Bible School, But now they had Epworth League. When I was a young person, I went to Epworth League.
What'd you do at Epworth League?
But I can't remember who else. I can remember 4 people. There was Marion Cloud and Billy Hancock and Mike Quinn and myself. And to save my life, I can't remember anybody else in the Epworth League, but there were other people there. Oh yeah, we never missed.
What time of day or what day of the week did the Epworth League meet?
What?
when did the Epworth League meet? Was that a Sunday evening activity?
It met before church on Sunday night, maybe I don't know